Hello and welcome to the Grounded Awakening podcast, conversations connecting science and intuition, real life lessons from real people, real professionals who've had experiences that help them awaken to the truth of what they need and what is needed to thrive in their profession. These are conversations to help us evolve and awaken to what we need to be grounded yet spiritually awakened in life, in parenting, in education, in healthcare, and in the way we interact with the world around us. We hope to ripple change through awareness and by helping people connect with their mind, body, spirit, one conscious conversation at a time. Hello and welcome to the Grounded Awakening podcast, where we are having conversations to connect science and intuition. I'm really excited today because I have Carolina Wikstrom on, and she is a human design and manifestation coach. And I was introduced to human design probably a year and a half ago, and I really didn't understand what it was. Just like I don't really understand astrology, but it's so cool, and it's such an interesting and methodical way, actually, to connect to who you are, what makes you tick, why you do the things you do, and what you need to thrive and for things to flow in your life. So I wanted to have Carolina on because I just feel like everybody needs to be introduced to this topic, because so many of us are having an identity crisis, or we don't know why things aren't flowing in our life. And the human design is a simple tool that actually, I was reading that human design is called the new astrology, an intersection of science and spirituality. Hello, that's what the Grounded Awakening is all about. So Carolina is, Carolina, hopefully I'm saying it right. She will correct me. Carolina is Colombian born. She has a really fascinating story. She was, I'm going to draw up here. She was born in Colombia, moved to New York, and has traveled quite a bit. And she found that, here we go. Okay. So she was originally from Colombia. She's lived in Canada and in New York City, and she's currently living in London with her family. So after moving to a new country without any friends or family around, she felt isolated and disconnected. That's when she found human design. And through it, she was able to get back in touch with her authentic self. Immediately, she became fascinated with the system and decided to dive deep into learning as much as she could about it. She's been studying and experimenting with human design for almost 3 years now. Human design has allowed her to blossom and thrive in this stage of her life. As a mom, a wife, a business owner, and a woman, she's found her power. She is passionate about sharing her expertise with human design because she's had first-hand knowledge through her clients, the deep impact that this system can have on people's lives. So with that, I want to welcome Carolina Wikstrom to the Grounded Awakening. Welcome, Carolina.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy that you're here. I was introduced to human design actually working with a business coach, and
Mhm.
she dabbled in it. She had had her chart done. And so when she was talking to me about it, some of the stuff resonated and made sense, but it wasn't until recently that I actually had a human design session with somebody. It was a quick one. One of my good friends, James, introduced me to somebody, and she did this, and it was really helpful for me to understand why things weren't flowing in my life the way I wanted to, and you know, where my authentic self needed me to be, and why certain things were easier for me than others, and what I need really to be happy and well. And I feel like so many people are going through a little bit of a, not lost, but just feeling like, why are things so hard, or why can't I find more joy in my life, or who am I? I mean, as a mom, we're both moms. You go through an identity crisis where you're like, okay, I'm a mom and I love being a mom. I'm a wife, I love being a wife, but I'm also a woman. I want to feel like I can be all those things and authentically myself, but who am I? Right? So it
Mhm.
sounds like, so what was your journey? Tell me about your own grounded awakening that brought you to this place of human design?
Yeah, so as you were mentioning, we moved to London when my son is 3 years old now, but he was 3 months at the time. So it was still very new to being a mom. And then here I was in a new country, no friends or family around, like just learning to be a mom. And so um, the isolation was really, really bad. And I was really isolated and I really struggled. And like, I don't think I particularly suffered from postpartum depression, but I feel that I was like this close.
Mm,
And the only reason why I don't think that I fell into depression is because I had certain tools to keep me going.
yeah.
And as someone who has dealt with depression before, I kind of knew what the signs were, so I was able to like pay attention
Mhm.
and kind of like take care of myself as much as I could at the time. Um, but I can see why so many people can struggle with it.
Yeah.
And still, the feeling of being alone, isolated, kind of like I felt like I dissolved completely, like I wasn't even like an entity anymore. I was just kind of like there to like
Yeah.
support someone else's life, but it
Mm,
wasn't like an a, a, an an individual anymore. Like it wasn't myself anymore.
yeah.
So I really struggled with that, and it wasn't until I found human design later on that I was able to make sense of a
Mm,
lot of it, a lot of what I went through, and a lot like put some language
mhm,
around like the things that I was feeling,
mhm.
and also connect back with myself.
Mm,
And on top of everything, by getting to know the system a little bit more, I was able to understand my husband a bit more, understand my son a bit more. So it had all this. It had a huge impact in my life because I was able to one understand myself better, two understand those around me better, three decondition and kind of like get rid of a lot of negative beliefs I had about myself,
right.
um, and the role that I'm here to play on Earth.
Mm,
Um, so it was a huge awakening for me.
yeah.
Um, and as you mentioned, the more I knew, the more fascinated I became, the more I wanted to learn, and I just decided to dive deep, and that's actually part of who I am, like having that those things that really call me and being able to dive deep into them. That's part of what I'm supposed to be doing. So it all felt very reaffirming. Um, and yeah, and so 3 years later, here I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah. So, so you said so the fact that you wanted to dive deep, and once you connect to something, you're kind of all in. That's part of your human design, is what
It
you're
is.
saying. And it's interesting because when I have this book that was it's actually an interesting book, and I bought it a while ago.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
for those of you listening that are interested, it's called Human Design: Discover the Person You Were Born to Be. It's by Chetan
Parking.
Parkin. Yes.
Hmm.
And it's it kind of walks you through because even when you're talking to somebody and you have this human design, or if anybody's had, to me, it's similar to astrology in that it takes your birthday, your time of birth, your place of birth, and creates this chart. So it's kind of like your astrological chart, but this goes even deeper. And one of the things that when I was reading a little bit about it, it kind of reminds me of I'm a Reiki master, so the chakra energy system reminds me of that. It also reminds me a little bit of because I teach a course called Holistic and Complementary Approaches to Health and Healing. We were just covering the acupuncture points and meridian points, and it sort of reminds me of all the different channels and the meridians. So there are so many different layers to this. And when I was reading about it, it was saying the nine jewels, when it was talking about the nine jewels or the nine uh is it energy centers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Energy center.
And how it's the so if actually I'm not gonna you're gonna explain it better than I will, but can you explain what is the human design energy blueprint? What does it tell you?
Of course. So, the first thing, for anyone watching this, that the book that Jennifer just referred us to is a book that I always recommend for anyone who wants to get started with human design, because it's very basic and very approachable. There's tons of stuff out there, but that particular one I recommend to everyone who's just getting started. Going back to your second question and what you were saying about um, how you see human design is actually a combination of multiple systems. So
Mm.
one of them is the zodiac. We also have the chakra system, because you were talking about like how similar it is. You're right; it's derived from that. But in human design, we have 9 energy centers, which kind of work similar to the chakras, but in the traditional Hindu chakra system, there's only 7,
7,
correct?
right? Mm-hmm.
You were talking about the meridians similar to the channels. That's actually from the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life.
Mm.
So those links between the energy systems are what we call channels, and that's where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
And it also has it also takes into account the I Ching. So that's where the gates come into play.
Okay.
So each one of the hexagrams from the I Ching corresponds to each a gate. So the I Ching has 64 hexagrams. Human design has 64 gates, and they correspond to one another.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right on. You hit the nail right on the head when you were saying that it reminds you of the systems, because
Yeah.
it's actually based on that.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's an
and
integrative system. Yeah.
yes, exactly. And because it's an integration of all of these different systems, you can see how a very detailed it can be, because it goes beyond just the 12 signs in the zodiac. Now we're talking about, like, instead of having 12 signs, we're talking about 64 gates. So it's a little more granular.
Yeah.
Um, and with the combination of all these things, we get a very detailed view of how our energy is supposed to work, how the energy we like, our energetic blueprint actually works within us, and how we are supposed to use that energy to our advantage.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's
Can you give
like
an example? You can use me if you want. I think you did my
um,
chart, or you can
I
use
do have
yourself.
your chart. Give
Yeah.
me. I'll just pull it up
Yeah,
here.
just to kind of so the listeners can kind of understand what it means. And if I understand, there's no one person's human design is completely unique. It's not exactly the same as
Yes.
somebody else's. So even though you're born at the same time in the same day, because of the location that you're born, but here's my question. This might be
Mhm.
weird, but if somebody's born on the same day in the same place at the same time, do they have the same chart? Do they have the same?
Yes, and I get this question a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, twins, for example, right?
Okay.
People, I mean, they'll probably be born like 1 or 2 minutes
Right.
apart, but you can still get like a pretty similar chart. Um, and the thing is, we need to remember that we still have free will, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, so for that reason, we still get to externalize a
Mhm.
lot of these aspects of ourselves in different ways.
Mhm.
And the system human design is also based on it's a binary system, like the yin and the yang.
Mhm.
So everything has a high expression and a low expression,
Mhm.
and it really is kind of like up to us and our awareness and how we manage to understand ourselves and
Mhm.
how that expression comes, if
Okay.
if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
for
Well, it's like
example,
stress. It's very much like your stress response is based on your expression or your perception of what's happening and then your response to it, which
mhm,
is everybody's experience kind of dictates or can shape how you respond to stress. So yeah, that's what it
yeah, or
like.
someone with a talent for, I don't know, mathematics. Like there are so many ways in which that particular talent can be used, right?
Right. Right.
So that's where like our own unique path and wants and desires and free will at the end of the
Right.
day, it's got like a factor here that comes into
Right.
play.
Okay. Okay.
And that's why I like human design, because it's not deterministic. It's
Right.
not like, oh, you were born to be an accountant. It's
Right.
more like, okay, here is like your talents, here is who you are, and then you get to be whatever you want.
Right. Right.
How do you wanna live out your design?
Right.
Um, which is, I think, is kind of magical.
So it's not necessarily, this is what I love about it too. It's not necessarily putting you in a box and giving you a label. It's
No.
just giving you a blueprint for how to live your best life, however it is
Mhm.
you want to choose to live it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And further to that, the system itself, Ra Uruhu, who channeled this information, he's very open about it. He's like, listen, like this is an experiment. Like take what you want from it, and leave the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And see how it works in your life. Like this isn't dogma.
Mm-hmm.
And if at any point in time you feel disempowered, or you feel like an element of human design doesn't
Yeah.
resonate, like just let it go, and focus on what helps. and
Yes.
and that's kind of the whole point of the system.
Yeah. Yeah. So, can you take us through kind of a blueprint that you would
uh
have for somebody and how it maybe, yeah,
sure. Is there any way to share screens here, or
no.
no? Okay. Well, I can chat about your design, but
Okay.
so you are a sacral generator
And
with a 1-3 profile,
yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. And
So
you
the
have a lot of. Go ahead.
no, 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 go ahead. Go ahead. Just so
Um,
that sacred, so the generator is the
I'll
energy system? Okay, sorry,
yeah,
you'll go
I'll
through
break
it.
it down.
Sorry. Yeah, thank
I
you.
was just
Because
gotta
I
give an
don't know this stuff.
overview.
I do
I'm
know
like,
that I'm a generator. Yes. Okay.
yes. Okay.
Mhm.
So generator is the energy type, and it's kind of like the basic level of how we categorize um each chart.
Mhm.
But beyond that, there are different aspects that come into
Okay.
play. So being a generator means that you're here to do the things that you enjoy,
Mhm.
and in doing so, you generate energy, has a name, for those around you, because not everyone has that capacity to
Okay.
generate that energy. So in doing those things that you love, you actually help support those around you.
Mm. Okay.
Um, so that's why Ra used to say that he was really jealous of generators, because in his mind, or the way he saw it, um, we kind of get to like just chill and kind of like enjoy the ride, just focus or joy, and then the universe kind of brings us things to respond to, because as a
Mhm.
generator your strategy is to respond.
Right.
So you are meant to go through life kind of like going, okay, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And just following your gut and what's calling you. And we had a bit of a conversation about this before, about like what brings you joy, and like seeing that reaction, that glow that comes to someone's face when they're talking about the things that they really love.
Mhm.
And that's all generators are supposed to do, just
Mm.
focus on those things.
Mm.
Um, because the idea is that if we all focus on our own gifts and our joy, then it's a win for everyone,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because let's say you love photography, and someone else loves, I don't know, law. So like everyone, if everyone just gets to do the things that they love,
Mhm.
um, it just everyone, like the collective benefits from it.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, so what happens? Because obviously I can hear people in the audio, the listeners kind of going, okay, great. It's great to do things that you love, but when you have to bring in money and you need to have a job and do certain things that maybe you're doing things that aren't as joyful.
Mm-hmm.
What about that as far as like maybe how can in business and stuff, there are certainly things that I have to do that I don't necessarily love, that doesn't light me up. But I guess for me, I've realized that I need to put more of the things that bring me joy into what I'm doing. Like this, I love having conversations with people. I love talking about things. I love kind of sharing experiences with people. So that's where I'm bringing joy. And when I think you and I were talking, I was playing with my teas and I was making my teas. That brings me joy. And that's when you
And you
said,
were glowing, and I'm like, I bet you're a generator because I can see it all over your face.
right, right,
You're
exactly.
glowing.
So I guess what advice, like if somebody is like, why is that important to know that you're a generator and that you need to do things that bring you joy, and that's how the energy flows? Why is that important for somebody to know in their life for them to be well and balanced?
So in the case of generators, we were talking about like having to do things that we don't like.
Yeah.
And fair enough, we all have to do some of those things.
Yep.
Um, but those are clues too as to where you're supposed to be putting your energy into. Um, so the idea behind like human design is at the end of the day, you should try to build a life around the things that you love.
Hmm.
So say you have a job that you absolutely hate and you're a generator and it's just draining you. And I get how it feels because I've been there.
Yeah,
It
when I
just
was a
saps
hospital administrator.
all the energy out of you.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Mm-mm.
and the advice here is to find little pockets of time
Yeah.
to put into the things that you love.
Yes.
Just doing that will kind of like re-energize you and
Hmm.
will also magnetize you to bring the things that you love, like to bring more opportunities so you
Hmm.
can focus even more of your energy and your time into those things.
Hmm.
um, so for example, say you love dancing, so you take a little class and
Mm.
then eventually you want to become a dance teacher, and
Mhm.
then you can start generating a
Right.
revenue that way.
Okay.
And so that's how like these little things really build into like, okay, you get, because that's the whole point, you do get to
Mhm.
live a life full of joy, and we all deserve to be supported in every possible way, including financially,
Yeah.
when we do the things that we love.
Right.
um, so that's kind of like how that could play out.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I also had a human design tell me that I am also a creator. I think they said it was like a creative, or
You
basically it was
have.
talk. Yeah, I was talking about how when my kids will come to me and I'll see that there's an issue. I'll see that there's a problem and I know how to fix it. I can see problems and I can kind of figure out a way to fix it. But what she said to me that really resonated in my life was, I have to wait for the invitation. I have to, instead of jumping in because I see the problem and I know how to fix it, I have to wait until my kids or clients or somebody comes to me and invites me to offer my solutions or my advice. And that really
Mhm,
resonated with me. That was really something that went, oh, so because when we're trying to kind of put on other people,
mhm,
this is what you should do, or offer advice or fix problems, that somebody's not looking for that solution. They want to do it themselves, or they're not even seeing that there's a problem.
mhm,
That's where you kind of get that pushback and that resistance. So that's
mhm,
why it's not easeful sometimes for me when I'm trying to
mhm,
impart my knowledge on my children and they don't want to hear it. Right. But it's when,
mhm,
and I've seen that in my own life. Now, my oldest, who's 22, will come to me and say, hey, can I just run something by you? Can I ask your advice on this? And there's the invitation. And then he's
mhm,
receptive. Whereas when he was younger, if I observed something and tried to tell him, this is what you should do, or you're doing XYZ, and that's why you're having trouble, so you need to do it this way, it wasn't received as well. So that
mhm.
was an aha moment for me when that was said. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, what does that mean?
Couple of things. So I can see on your chart you have an open head and ashna. So when that happens, we tend to we become kind of like bit of like mind readers. We
Mm.
can see what other people, what others are thinking,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we jump into trying to answer their questions and fix their problems for them.
Yep.
And so we need to bring our awareness into play and take a step back and think, is this a problem I need to be solving?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's not, it's just a waste of your energy, and as you said, it probably won't be well received
Right.
if you try to fix it for someone else.
Right.
um, Also, a lot of the things that you're mentioning, it sounds like for like a projector, which is like a different energy type from generator.
Mm-hmm.
um, but you still, as a generator, you're still meant to wait to respond.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to interacting with the world, you need to you need to be given something to respond to.
Mm-hmm.
um, and so that's why it's probably useful for you to wait until they come to you and ask you, and then you have something to respond. If you just start talking, you're not responding to anything, you're just kind of like initiating, and
Mm-hmm.
that may not be very well received sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I had to give in my class, I was away and I had to give a Zoom conversation. Like I had to teach via Zoom. And I thought, wow, I really don't like this because I don't have the energy and the interaction that I need that kind of keeps me going. But then I can see them and I'm responding to faces. I'm responding to, and when I got on the call, all the screens were no videos were on. And I immediately said, I need everybody's videos up and on because I need to respond to the reactions, right? I need to respond to the faces. Yeah, so that makes sense.
I'm the
Um,
same way. I
yeah.
am a generator as well. And so, for example, me having these conversations or jumping on lives where it's like chatting, it comes so natural. But
Mhm.
when it's just me talking in front of a camera, I'm like, what
Yep.
do I say now? And
Yep.
I have a few other things on my chart that kind of like make it like a little bit more challenging for me to do that.
Mm.
And that's something I've learned to like honor and understand about myself, as opposed to trying to like uh, be negative about it.
Right.
Um, because as a generator, I do a lot better with conversations and chatting, and it's
Mhm.
sort of like, or is designed to have that kind of interaction.
Right.
um, so yeah, so for example, podcasts, and like, it's probably one of the reasons that you created this one, is
Mhm.
something that comes really natural to you, because conversations and the back and forth are important.
Well, it's interesting because as I was getting caught up in sort of some of the business aspects of my work, I
Hmm.
realized that I like to create things. I like to have conversations with people. And as much as I like the healing aspect of what I do, I wasn't finding as much joy in the one-on-one with people
Hmm.
when they were
Hmm.
coming to me. And I realized that I really enjoyed the one to many, like talking to big groups and having that interaction, but not just the interaction with me, seeing the interaction with others as
Hmm.
well. So I really kind of sat down and I thought, well, the things that are easeful for me
Hmm.
are the podcasts that I do when I'm a guest on the
Hmm.
podcast, are the conversations that I have, are the talks that I give. Um, the marketing piece and the kind of the more behind the scenes business stuff is not easeful for me. It's not
Hmm.
joyful for me. So
Hmm.
I realized, you know what? I need to do more of these kinds of things. And I started this podcast because I thought, I love having these conversations. This is what brings me joy. So I'm going to have more of this. And then if it turns into clients coming to me for me to do speaking engagements or people coming to me for my courses or my workshops and my retreats, awesome. But this is really what kind of the conversation is what really brings me joy.
Hmm.
So, I mean, do more of that. So that was one of my questions is how can understanding your human design help you with your identity, your purpose, and sort of create a life that's more easeful for you?
So I before I answer that question, I wanted
Yeah.
to ask you, since you made those decisions, how has everything been flowing for you?
Much better. Much better. Yeah, I mean, everything again, I sort of I've found that where I used to wake up with my to-do lists, I now sit and I ask, okay, what does my soul want to do today? What does my soul require of me today? And I'll be honest, I happen to have the freedom in my life to be able to do that.
Mhm.
My husband has, makes a great living, and, I don't have to provide the income to support my family. So I want to, just full disclosure there, say that, yeah, it's nice having that freedom to be able to do that. But I've also been deep in the weeds and in the thick of things with my kids, and my um, kind of being the decision maker of our family and being the one that holds everything together. I know what it's like to have the pressures. I know what it's like to feel like you don't have enough time in the day. So, but I've also realized that when I do take those pauses and I take the moments to connect to myself and to connect to what it is that I need in the moment, it just helps me be more productive during my day. It helps me find more moments of joy. It helps me be more present in my life. So, yeah. Um,
Mhm.
um, yeah. So that answers that question, I think.
Yeah, so going back to what you were asking about how is human design supposed to help you?
Yeah.
Um, the reality is every time I share, like every time I have a reading with a client, what happens is they just feel empowered to do
Yes.
the things they already knew.
Mm,
Like it's just like all I'm at the end of the day, all I'm providing is kind of like affirmation,
yes.
reassurance,
Yes.
because these are things that we know deep down they're true and correct for us.
Yes.
But it's through society, it's through family, it's through growing up in a certain culture that
Yeah.
we kind of like um, get, we call it conditioning. Uh, we essentially become less of ourselves
Mhm.
to kind of fit the mold that we are
Yeah.
told we're supposed to fit.
The societal
Um,
expectations. Yeah, absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
So the more we honor our authentic selves, the more we're going to feel in alignment
Mhm.
and bring all the things we actually want out
Yeah.
of life. That's why I was asking you, how have things been
Yeah.
going for you since you started following that?
Yeah.
Because it really has a huge impact
Yeah.
on people's lives.
Well,
Um,
and I'll say when I find joy and I find, that I'm happier, I see the ripple effect in my kids, because when I'm happier, I'm less reactive to my kids, and I'm also showing my kids to, like, my oldest son is graduating college, and the one thing that I say to him is, go into these jobs. Things changed for him. What he thought he was gonna be doing is his path changed a little bit, and I've said to him, "Go into these jobs and find these jobs," or it almost like you're trying on different outfits to think, "Okay, what fits? What feels right? What do I enjoy? What do I not enjoy?" Not going into something thinking, "This is going to be my life, and it's more of an experiment to figure out, okay, how does this resonate? And it really needs it. And I stress to him and to all my kids, you have to find joy in what you're doing. You have to enjoy what you're doing. And when it's hard, is it hard because it's not in alignment with who you're supposed to be? Or is it like I think about in healthcare right now? My husband's a surgeon, I was a nurse. A lot of times you might find joy in helping people, but the environment that you're in creates this disease because there's something not in alignment with what you need and what you believe to be true. That's what, to me, the grounded awakening is all about. It's finding, sort of, you have this knowledge, you have this foundation, but then finding that spiritual connection and that higher connection to what it is that you need to thrive, and how can you be in alignment with what you need. So,
mhm,
yeah, that's, to me, what human design. And when you said, it's when you're telling people something that they kind of already know, it reminds me of when I do readings for people. A lot of people have a lot of fear about, oh, what are you going to tell me? I'm never going to tell you anything that you don't already know. Usually it just helps to bring clarity to something and to reframe it in a way that makes sense in the moment. So that
For
sounds like the
me,
human design. Yeah.
a lot of comments I get is I, I, I can't like I always knew that about me,
Mm,
but I never accept or I never allowed myself to accept it.
yeah.
Um, so if you and I'll give you like my own example. Growing up, I was a great student and I loved studying. So I was bullied essentially for being a nerd.
Oh.
Um, but I got to a point like but eighth grade I call like stopped caring.
Mm,
And then I found my own group of friends that kind of like who were supportive one another. They're still my friends
yeah.
to this day. And then call it 25 years later, I found about human design, and it's in my chart that I'm someone who's supposed to really dive deep and really get a really strong foundation of every topic I like.
Mm,
And that's like an essential part of me as a person and how I'm supposed to operate in the world so I can thrive.
mm,
So
mm-hmm,
building that strong foundation is essential for me.
mm-hmm.
Um, and so you can only imagine how reaffirming having that knowledge of like, yeah, I'm supposed to like studying, like shoot me.
Right. Right.
And not everyone's supposed to be like that, which is
Right.
also okay.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just um, it's just giving people language
Yeah.
to understand themselves and express themselves better and
Yes.
express their need and wants a bit better.
I love that.
Um,
I'm all about that. So,
mhm.
as we wrap up, is there a way, can you give us maybe your 3 to 4 tips or areas that you think human design can help people in their life? Like why do you think, or tips that you can give for people to learn human design and then apply it to their life?
Of course. So, why you need human design? Um, because one, it will help you understand yourself better.
Mhm.
It will help you get rid of a lot of limiting beliefs and really get you to a place of freedom because you are free to be your true authentic self.
Mhm.
It will help you understand those around you, and it will help you um, be in alignment with your true purpose.
Mhm.
Um, and it's like, okay, that's great, but how can you apply it in life? So if you think about it, if you combine those things, you can see how you can start thriving in every aspect of your life. If you
Mhm.
understand others, how are you not going to be able to thrive in your relationships with your kids, your partner, your friends, your family?
Mhm.
Um, if you own your gifts, how are you not going to thrive in the workplace?
Right.
Because you know your talents and you know what you bring to the table. If you know how you're supposed to operate and move your energy, how are you not going to thrive, like living a life that you feel healthy and strong and just magnetic and happy and yeah, just the universe is a good universe. Is we're not here to struggle, and I
Right.
hate that saying. I've been thinking about it like no pain no gain.
Yeah.
Sure, a lot of things that are worth their while, like
Mhm.
they require hard work,
Mhm.
but you don't need to struggle. Like life doesn't need to be a struggle.
Right.
When you're finding so much resistance, it's a clue that something's amiss, that you need to correct the curse and the path. And it's actually a clue the universe pushing back to literally tell you this isn't the way.
Right.
So when you're finding so much resistance, that's a clue to step back and see where things are not aligning. How can you correct these things? How can you bring more joy into your life? How can you maybe uh, delegate if possible, or like just say no? Like especially generators have a really hard time saying no. Um, who struggle with boundaries.
Yeah.
So sometimes no can be a very powerful word,
Mm-hmm.
and can make you very, very magnetic, because once you start telling people and the universe at large, this is what I'm gonna do and this isn't okay with me anymore, then you can really, you create space for the things that you actually want to come
Mm,
into your life.
right.
So
Yeah, absolutely. This is awesome. So if people want to connect with you and have you do a human design with them, or learn more or follow you, where can we send them?
of course, so I'm on Instagram on at I am Carolina Wikstrom. I'm sure we can put it in the notes or something.
Yeah, it'll be in the
Really
show
long
notes,
spell.
definitely. Uh,
But yeah, you can find me there. I'm always sharing information about human design, and
mm,
just reach out to me if you have any questions. If you're curious and you want to see your chart, you can get it for free. You can literally just Google human design, and a bunch of sites will show up and in all of them you can create your chart for free. Um,
you just
and
can't
then you can
understand
start. Exactly. So then you can start like kind of looking, okay, what does being a generator mean? Or what
it.
does being a projector or manifestor, like kind of like understanding pieces of it.
Hmm.
But really, if you really want to understand in human design, we say that the what's saying the sum is more than the parts.
Is greater than the parts. Yeah. The sum is
Exactly.
greater than the parts. Yeah.
The sum, and that's the case for human design. So it's not that you're a generator and a 1-3 profile
Right.
and you have a cycle defined. Is how do all those elements combine,
Right. To give me the
come
big
into play
picture.
together?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. It's
exactly.
like the puzzle pieces. I love this. It's like each element is giving you a puzzle piece. You put it together and then you can see the big picture of things.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
oftentimes what I see with my clients, and it's so amazing because um, what I see is that how each piece supports the other. So
Yes.
it's like clearly this is something you're meant to be doing because you also have this other
Right.
aspect of your life that is
Right.
supposed to be supporting this thing that you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
So to me it's fascinating to see how all those different aspects come into play, and how, like, I mean, I haven't had the first chart that's like, oh, I've seen this chart before,
Mm.
because they're so unique. But
Yeah.
every time we see a chart, it's just so interesting to me because we all function different,
Yeah.
and but it's always the theme of like, okay, these different aspects come together and support one another.
Yeah.
So that's the really interesting part.
Yeah. So if you're out there and you're trying to figure out how to have more ease and flow in your life, if you really want to understand what you need to thrive and to feel good and to feel purposeful and happy, um, and have your life be a little bit more easeful, then check out Human Design. You can connect with Carolina Wikstrom, um, on I am Carolina Wikstrom on Instagram. And if you're interested in learning more and you want to look at this book, I will put it on the show notes too. But it's called Human Design: Discover the Person You Were Born to Be by Chetan, Chetan Parkin, Parkyn. And it'll give you just kind of, but there's a lot. Just play with it, have fun, and start to open to the possibilities in your life while you put your feet on the ground, anchor yourself in that knowledge, and open yourself up to possibilities and above. Be well, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.